Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I drew this little color along specifically for this festive holiday season. And our color palette is going to be pretty easy. Using Woomer, I'm going to use the top portion where it's these fall colors, these warm colors, and kind of just eliminate the cool areas. And it has some nice yellows here, so I'm probably going to use a lot of those. And for the pumpkins, I don't have the exact color I'm looking for, so I'm gonna mix the bright orange and a muted yellow. Then I'm gonna mix that in with some brown. But the idea is, for this picture, I'm not gonna do a lot of gradients and not even a lot of highlights like I usually do. I'm gonna approach this one a little different. I want the whole thing to be a little matted. So to get the colors I'm wanting, I'm going to be doing layering, and this is a good example. So I'm going to go over this entire pumpkin with this muted orange, this yellow, and that way when I drop that bright orange on it, it's really going to calm it down. And then I'm still going to be able to pop it out with the dark brown. It's going to give it that good look. And in case you missed it, this is Woomer color pencils I'm using. I had the discount code that I used before, or I offered the discount code. So for those of you who did pick up a set of Woomer, this is right up your alley. And for those of you who do not have Woomer, who cares? Just use your favorite color pencil. What I'm doing here, funny enough, you might not have to do. This orange that you're looking at right now, which is kind of muted, it's like basically an orange yellow. Or a yellow orange, you might already have that color. Woomer doesn't have the exact palette I want for this picture, so I'm able to, fortunately, they do mix and layer well. So I know a lot of you, the whole point of doing the color along is so you could learn and pick up techniques so you could apply them on your own. I just don't want anybody ever feeling like you are bound to the pencils that I'm using, because you're absolutely not. If you pick up a little technique here and there, awesome. And if you don't, as long as we're having fun and we're spending this quality time together, it's a win. I'm trying to jump around here as per usual, so you don't have to watch every painful stroke of me coloring these pumpkins, but all I'm doing is just trying to figure out the look that I personally want. So I've laid down my light yellow so my bright colors don't really pop. I don't want them to come through. So this orange you're looking at right now for the pumpkins, it's pretty much the base orange that I'm going for, and that's the orange and the yellow on top of each other. This brown, it's a dark terracotta. I'm wanting that to pop out the pumpkin. So all you're seeing me doing, if you can't really make it out, is I'm just going back and forth. I'm rotating between these three colors until the pumpkin starts taking shape and acquiring the color that I want it to have. You can see here, if you look at the color of the lead of this orange versus the color of the pumpkin itself, you could see how that yellow really calms it down from being this really bright color. I did a lot of, before I colored this, I did a lot of looking online. I surrounded myself with cats in these festive Thanksgiving pictures to come up with something that I thought would be a lot of fun to color. What you're looking at pretty much is a cat laying on possibly a cinnamon roll or maybe some kind of pumpkin pastry. And I thought this overall would be a really cute, simple picture that we could sink our teeth into, learn a little bit, and also have a lot of fun. Now, here I'm layering, I'm adding on another layer of this brown with the intention of going into it next with a blender. Now, I'm going to try a blender that I have not really messed with. I've been working on a blender video, and in doing this, I've had to pull out all the blenders again. And I don't want to just do like sample sheets and test sheets. I want to actually use them so I can get a feel of how they work within, coloring something for real. And the one I'm going to use this time around is the Colorless Nor blender. Have not messed with this thing at all. It was in a group of several others that I haven't tried before. So I'm going to play with this one as much as I can on this drawing. If I find out it's really soft or really aggressive, I'll go ahead and swap out as I go to get the the proper blender. But I can say this, after feeling it, it reminds me a lot of, it's definitely on the aggressive side, but it's not so aggressive where it would hit Derwent or Kalour, but it does kind of have the feeling of a Kalour. But if you've used Derwent or Kalour, you know how they're kind of powdery? This one has the same feel without the powder residue. It does a really, really good job. You can see how it's pushing these colors. It's getting rid of it's eliminating the white of the paper while it blends the layered colors really well. I don't think I would necessarily want to use it on little detailed areas where I want to keep the highlights, much like any aggressive blender. But so far, so good. Okay, for this next part, I got the what I'm thinking of as a cinnamon roll. So I'm gonna probably try to get that bread look. Once again, I'm gonna lay down the yellow first, and then I'm gonna go with this pink. And I think that mixed in with the yellow should give it like a bread, like doughy look. So, and I almost made this into like a pumpkin, like it was gonna be more orange, but I didn't want to saturate the page in oranges. So I'm just going to lay down this bread-like color, this toasty bread. So it's just, I'm going to rotate between the yellow and that pinkish color, and then the brown. I'm just going to rotate over and over until I get that acquired look. So now you can kind of see what I was going for. It has that cinnamon roll look to it, where I'm not really trying to get too many highlights, but I am trying to hit some spots up high to make them a little darker and almost where it's been toasted, where it goes down to a lighter color bread. And you see here, I'm going into this with kind of a little bit of a darker umber. The reason I'm doing that is my pastry itself, it has that dark caramel into the light umber. So with this darker brown, what I'm wanting to do is pop out the drizzle, the icing that's on top of this pastry. It's going to really push it forward, but I won't be able to do that. I couldn't do that with the colors I was already using. So I had to jump it up some to this much darker brown. And it's going to really pop out everything in the foreground. Now this here seems like the perfect use for this blender because I'm not really trying to maintain any details, and it's pushing these browns to the yellows perfectly. But look carefully at the brown I just added under the icing. It's completely blowing that out. So if I really wanted to keep that as a line, this would definitely be the wrong blender to be using. It's fading it. It's making that shadow into a gradient, but if I wanted it to maintain and be just a line, a dark line, this is not the way to go. But I think this is going to give it a really overall soft look. And here we go with the creams. I want a pink and a yellow. Ideally, I would get like a really soft sand color, you know, like when you see through the glaze on a donut or on a cinnamon roll. It has that almost that light earth tone. But I think by layering this yellow first, just like I did with the pumpkins, it's really going to mute this pink, and it's going to make it more, just kind of have more of a sugary sweet look. And that is kind of what I'm going for. I'm going to hit the ends, the bottom of the dripping icing, more with the pink than anything else. And I'm going to have that fade as it gets towards the top. This is going to give it a little more weight and just kind of make it look a little bit more yummy. And now that I know the Knorr is an aggressive blender, I'm going with my Caran here because I don't want to blow that pink completely out. I want it to be where it's more pink at the bottom and have it gradually fade up towards the top of the icing. And the soft blender is able to do that. If I were to use one that was more aggressive, the pink would completely lighten up, and I don't want that. Now let's look at our greens here. I like this olive, this dark olive. So I'm gonna mix it with this mustard yellow, and once again, I'm gonna use that light yellow. I'm gonna bring all these together for the green that I want. Ideally, if I had a larger color palette, I would go with a yellowish green. And again, this one just doesn't have it. The closest thing to it is like a neon green, and that's not what I'm going for. So to keep my color palette consistent, I'm going over the whole thing first, again with that yellow. And now look what it's doing to this green. It's no longer a deep pine green as opposed to a soft yellow green. And I'm basically using this mustard as a blender. So I'm going to sandwich the light yellow with the really dark green. I'm going to sandwich that with this goldenrod color. And it's going to give that green a much more acquired look. I've been going back and forth thinking, do I call these color longs or is this more like a tutorial? And the tutorial just gives me makes me feel so icky, like it's performing some kind of a how-to class. And I don't ever want that feel. I want it to be, to have the feeling more of a color long. But I know I've had several people make the comment about they love this as a tutorial because they're learning so much. So I've been back and forth on the title and the thumbnail. Am I going with, a tutorial or a color long? A tutorial or color long? And then I thought we could just call it a toot-along. I like the way that sounds. So come on, everybody. We could toot together. This is the part I was talking about here, where I'm going to use pretty much one of the darkest browns I can get for the pine cone. This is the only spot I really want that dominant color. The rest of it I just want to be really soft. And even the pine cones I'm going to be softening up. And I'm not sure that I've ever colored a pine cone, especially like this. So this is going to be a first time experience for me. So the idea is to have the inside to be this darker brown and the outside to be more of that thematic brown I've been using throughout. And then again, I'm trying to just rinse and repeat most of the colors I can. So if I could use that cream again or that light umber again, I'm going to try to pull these colors throughout the entire drawing. And here again, I'm back to the aggressive blender. Watch how it's erasing this caramel that I just added. I mean, it's completely dispersing it from being actual distinctive marks to just spreading that color out. And again, that's not a negative or a positive thing. That just depends on where you want it. So when I laid down that rust color, if you will, I did that with the intention of going on top of it with this blender. And instead of having a brown mark, now it just spread that color throughout. And it's allowing me to go back on top of it again to pop those colors out and still have it be a nice gradient fade because of the blender. I always enjoy coloring areas like this because when I'm adding this dark brown, what that's basically doing is it's revealing where I could play around with the lighting. So you could already kind of see those little white areas in between the leaves kind of just starting to appear. And that's going to be a lot of fun for me when I go to do the blending because I at this point, I want to keep those there. It gives this leaf a little bit of structure. It gives it a little bit of depth, form, and shape. So now again, I'm going on top of that same brown I used for the pine cones, and I'm really popping out the little areas of the leaves. It almost makes it look like it's recessed, where you could see the bold areas popping out. And now here I'm using a softer blender because again, I don't want to blow that out. If I use the aggressive or the Noir that I've been using, it's going to completely push that brown and it's going to undo all of these little areas I just worked for. This blender, the Caran, is going to allow me to go over the whole thing without worrying that I'm erasing anything I just created. Now on to the apples. I got a few of them in here, so what I'm going to do, instead of using that bright red that I might normally use to match the rest of the muted colors, I'm going to go with this burnt pink and this deep red, this brick red. And as per usual, I'm going to lay my lighter color down first. This is going to help get rid of the tooth on the page, and it's going to go ahead and give the that red something to stick to. And in doing so, it's going to really lighten it up. So it's never going to be the color it would normally be had I laid it down first. But you could still see it's a really nice, rich red, and I think that's going to really lend itself to the other colors that I've been using in this palette. It's funny, I like doing things like this because this is absolutely not a palette I would normally use, especially for an apple. I'm usually going to go with that bright candy apple red, but here, both of these colors, especially that pink, it's not something at all I would use to color an apple with, but yet with the rest of this palette, it's coming out really nice. And here where I'm blending it, I am going back to my Caran, again, because I want to maintain, I don't want to completely blow out the dark reds that I just put in there, and I want to maintain a little bit of that glare, and this is going to be perfect for that. Here I'm going back and forth with the same browns I used in the pine cone. I'm just using them in different ratios. So I'm just barely touching it with that really dark brown while I'm able to go into it with that mustard again and that umber. And it's going to kind of make the shapes on here pop a little bit. And that pink is the same pink I used in the apples. I'm kind of using that for my highlights, but I'm also kind of using it as a blender. And speaking of blenders, this again is the Caran because I don't want to blow out a lot of those darker colors. I just fed the birds their Thanksgiving bird seed, so they're extra happy. So that's what you're hearing in the background. I'm really flying through this second flower, doing a lot of cuts and edits because you do not need to sit through that whole thing again. I'm just going back and forth, using pretty much every color that I've used in the palette. Nothing new. The browns, the greens, the reds, or the browns, the yellows, the reds, just to maintain the palette that I want. And again, I'm just editing it out because you just saw me do the first one. It's like I never really know how much to leave in because I think a lot of y'all at some point get it. But then on the other hand, it is a color along. So the point of it is to post as much as I can. So I'm always in that dilemma. And for the ears here, I'm going back to that apple pink that I used on the apple, and then a much brighter pink because I do want our little kitty cat hero here to kind of stand out and not blend in the colors too much. My big question was, am I going to keep him white or go with a light color? And I think in this case, I'm going to go do something different. I want to make him a caramel color. The question is if that's going to work. Will it look too odd? But I think with the palette the way that it is, I think he's going to actually end up looking really good mixed in these colors. So just like everything else before, I'm laying down that yellow that my other colors are going to go on top of. But right there, I could already see, because I was kind of thinking, well, maybe the yellow cat would look odd. But I think it's actually going to look really good as long as I keep these colors light. And I just kind of flirt with the shape. Like I don't ever go too heavy anywhere and have it kind of fade into the whites. Then like right here, I got this cream color. And then on top of this, to do some stripes, I'll probably go with like the caramel. But because it's going on last, there's not much tooth left on this paper, and it's gonna stay really soft. And I think that's the goal, is to keep this kitty's colors as soft as possible, where he stands out, but at the same time he's not breaking our color palette. Okay, so here I'm going back to that apple red, and I think it's really going to work because of the colors that I've already laid down. It's not going to come across as a red or even a pink. Once all these colors start merging and melting together, it's gonna give them more of a natural look. Yeah, it sounds odd, but just bear with me, you'll see what I mean. Now, anytime I'm using blush or doing like soft grays and I want that to fade back into the white, I'm going to go with my most aggressive blender, which is the Kalour. This or even the Derwent is great at achieving that, where it really, really softens the color because it completely blows it out and makes it go into the gradient of white, which is nice. And our drawing's about done here. I just want to touch it up. It does look a little bit too blank for me, which is fine. But this would be where I could see like some soft colors go in the background, like marker or even watercolor or something. So I'm going to try to achieve that with this same yellow I've been using to keep this whole picture thematic. So I'm going to use that yellow, real soft. And now I'm going into it with some blues and right off the bat, I feel like it's clashing. And normally I like the look of blue in the background. I like it a lot, but I think it's starting to take it out of the Thanksgiving look, the holiday, the fall look. So fortunately, I'm able to go right back over it with this yellow. And if done right, yellow and blue does not always make green. Sometimes it's a perfect blend. And this is the case. And if it does make the green, it's still a soft enough green that it's going to work. And you can see here, the blue is not dominant. In fact, it even enhances it a little. So there you go. I think it's an overall good looking picture. It's cute. Go to my Facebook page while it's there and grab you one. And y'all have an awesome and safe Thanksgiving.
Sugar Sarito.